Hey guys, SGT here, and guess what? Back on the line, it's Bix Weir from RoadToRuta.com. Bix, welcome back.
Thanks, Sean. It's good to be here.
World events changing faster than just about any of us can keep up with. I want to read something to you real quick, and then let's just see where this takes us. And this is by the pen name Eric Blair from Activist Post. And Eric writes, "The secret freedom fighters working to unseat the New World Order." And here's a quote. "Apparently the good guys now have enough tactical positioning to begin a global transformation plan, starting with cleansing the current system of the bad guys." Bix, that sounds a lot like what you would write.
That's a lot to say. It's crazy these days, all the stuff that's going on. I've basically taken to comparing the Road to Ruta stuff, my conclusions that I've drawn over the past 4 years, to kind of the conspiracy stuff also, and seeing where they overlap, and because a lot of it I think is a lot of bluster, a lot of hopeful, wishful thinking, but then again you hit these points with like the 450 bankers that have resigned in the past 2 months. I mean, things like that are really jumping out right now, and it does give me a lot of hope that the Road to Ruta theory, and the theory that there are good guys taking out these banksters is actually coming true, and I'm excited about that.
Well, we're all excited about it, and more than anything, we're hopeful that there's truth in it. But I think we're seeing evidence of the truth of the matter, and let's talk a little bit about that. You talk about the 450 or so resignations or firings of key bankers from high positions of power all over the planet, from different corporations and government entities. Let's talk a little bit about that, and let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing as whistleblowers from all over the planet come out of the woodwork to throw John Corzine under the bus and Goldman Sachs under the bus. And, we're just seeing a lot of good news, I think, aren't we?
We are. And as a matter of fact, I was looking at the list of all the banker resignations, and number 449 is a huge one that just jumped out to me today. This is on the American Kabuki blogspot.com site where they track these. And this is the resignation of a guy named Jonathan Molds, who was the head of Bank of America's over-the-counter derivative trading business, including the head of their rate derivative trading and head of global derivatives and global commodities. I mean, this is a gigantic resignation, considering that the CDS debacle that went on with Greece defaulting, only one bank has declared if they won or lost on that, and it was an Austrian bank that lost $1.3 billion, and that's the only bank that's declared anything. And now we have, right on the heels of that, the resignation of the number one guy, Bank of America in Europe, who dealt in these derivatives, and they're huge. They have $50 trillion in derivatives. So there's a lot going on with all these resignations, and everywhere you look, you're seeing things starting to fall apart.
Well, you're right. Everywhere you look, indeed. I posted this at SGT Report. Must watch. If the dollar is the problem, could the gold standard be the solution? And Press TV Global News, certainly representing Iran's point of view on this thing, would ask, could we really dump the dollar? And the host, a female on Press TV with 3 Anglo guests, started the broadcast by saying this, Bix, and I'll quote, "Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi both threatened to dump the dollar, and look what happened to them. Yes, the return of the gold standard is not for the faint-hearted, and you can be sure of a head-on collision with America if you try and plot the downfall of the dollar. Some believe the only solution is to go for gold."
Well, I think the largest attacker of the U.S. dollar, and it's a very large one, is the U.S. itself. We are doing everything we can to destroy the value of the dollar. Now, it comes down to, is it on purpose? And, from my work at the Road to Ruta, yes, that was the plan, create as much fiat money as possible to destroy the dollar and return to a gold standard. And we're doing a great job. I mean, you just look at all the money we're spending, all the QEs we're throwing out there, all the secret funds that we're sending $15 trillion over to Europe. All that stuff is a plan, a design plan to destroy the dollar and return to a gold standard.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your theory because, as you know, Bix, I want very much to believe that Ron Paul will be the next president of the United States. I think at this point, all right-thinking people that want to, maintain their faculties have thrown in the towel a little bit. Not that they've stopped supporting Ron Paul. Not that any of us should stop supporting his campaign and sending him money when we can. Because as long as he's in this race, liberty can prevail because the message is getting out. But the reality is, Bix, unless these good guys that you speak of and others are speaking of can take this media back, it's game over for Ron Paul. So as long as the local media and the national media is going to maintain this blackout, until the good guys can dismantle this media, we're kind of screwed, aren't we?
We are, and it's obvious they have shut him out of any discussion in the mainstream media. But that's all, yes, the bad guys control the media, and they're going to do what they do. But my theory on Ron Paul is always hinged upon the financial breakdown that I see happening. It could happen any day. I see it happening before the August convention, because once that happens, then all these things that Ron Paul has been talking about over the years, the problem of creating too much money, the problem with the Federal Reserve, we're on the brink of collapse. He's been saying this for 40 years, but it has never come true. The banksters have always gotten out of it. If this time it does happen the way he says, and there is a monetary breakdown, a global meltdown of the U.S. dollar, as well as all the markets, then all eyes will be focused on Ron Paul, and he'll be a shoo-in, literally, because everybody will be sitting there. They've lost all their money. They've lost their 401ks. They've lost all their virtual assets they've invested in. That's the key to Ron Paul becoming the next president. It's the breakdown of the monetary system.
Well, one thing is a universal truth, and it doesn't matter whatever the hardship is in your life that you're going through, or in this case, the hardship our entire country is going through. It is always darkest before the dawn. So I do want to be hopeful about this. I want to remain hopeful because there's really no other reason to do this. What you and I are doing, what Andy Hoffman is doing, what James Turk is doing, what Chris Duane is doing, what any of the truth tellers, Kerry Lutz, it doesn't matter. We should stop doing this if we can't remain hopeful. And the bottom line is it's always darkest before the dawn. So maybe this thing is about to turn. And as we see all this support for Ron Paul, it's just overwhelming support. It can't be denied. I mean, only in a paradigm as screwed up as this one could the media get away with turning their backs on this man. Truly the champion of the people.
And I think it's up to us to keep carrying that torch for him. I mean, he's been working hard for a long time to get these concepts forward, and they're coming out faster than he had ever hoped for, which is great. And it's up to us to continue the battle, continue to talk about it, continue to talk about what he's standing up for, and force it on the mainstream media, because people are listening to the YouTube events. They're reading my blog. They're reading everybody's blog about the truth is leaking out. It's not coming through the mainstream media, but it's leaking out everywhere else. And we gotta keep that up. We gotta forward emails to people and let them know that what you're seeing on the mainstream TV is not reality anymore.
No, it's absolutely the opposite of reality, and it's amazing. Once your eyes are open, you really can see the digital ones and zeros of this matrix. It's almost that pronounced, because it's amazing to me that people can turn on the television. Probably the most curious thing that I find is when I travel and I'm sitting in those airports and I see people gazing up at CNN blaring from those monitors. It just drives me nuts. I just want to shake everybody out of their sheeple-like stupor, because there is just no better example of this matrix than the sheeple in the airport staring up at those CNN Big Brother monitors, listening to CNN's view of the world, which could not be more misguided and misangled and misrepresented and propagandist. What's your take on that?
It is true, and the strange thing is it goes to every facet, even within the banking system. I was at a dinner the other night with about 10 fairly senior bankers, and some of them kind of knew I was into gold and silver, but these are pretty big people at some of the biggest banks, and not one of them understood the problem with derivatives, the problem with the banking system, that we're on the brink of some kind of collapse. They're so focused on their little niche of the world within the banking system that they have no clue what's coming down. And it was stunning. It really was that they get most of their information from the news media, from CNBC, and they're just kind of regurgitating what they hear on TV, how the economy is doing better, and we'll get out of this in 12 months or something like that. I'm like, these are supposed to be the smartest people in the banking industry, and all they're doing is regurgitating the stuff they've heard on CNN or Fox News station. It is crazy what's going on right now.